so excited.
It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
No Dustin Nielsen on this Thursday of Two Guys and a Goalie. Instead, it's another edition of Two Matts and a Goalie. Matt Iwanyk, Matt Kassian, Joaquin Gage with you here on Two Guys and a Goalie, presented by GS Construction, setting the industry standard for 50 years with quality, efficiency, safety, driving their success. GS Construction is a foundation built on teamwork, and now they want you to become a part of the team. Visit gsconstruction.ca or click Ready to Work on their page at indeed.ca. With the Next Person Up program at GS Construction. It's not a job, it's a career. Cass Gager, welcome. Cass, just not good enough to. Did I smell or something in the hangout today? You couldn't stick around the studio. Just needed to get away from me.
You're talking to Cass?
Oh, Gage. I meant Gager. I meant Gager. Sorry.
I was like,
I'm all over the place.
There's two of me.
Yeah. There's we've managed to clone Cass, so that's great. No, buddy, I'd like to hang out, but I got some stuff through work that needs to be taken care of.
Dealt with at home. Cass, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Man. Just plugging along. Still digesting all the craziness of free agency, but we're in a good spot, so we're good.
What's the biggest thing that you're still just trying to process when it comes? Is it just how good of a day Jeff Jackson had? Is it what else?
Just league wide. I would say just league wide, like the amount of moves, the speed of moves, how much happened so quickly, and just trying to pick through my brain, like who are the winners and losers actually going to be? Or the teams that we think are going to be winners. Are they going to look back at this and say we either spent too much or what happened? Toronto jumps to the forefront of my thought with that. It's just. Yeah, it was just a super interesting free agency. So, you're kind of still looking, and news obviously slower now. Things still shaking out, but there's still a lot that has to happen for teams. And from a trade standpoint, I think we're going to see more action as summer rolls on here. So it's just an interesting time, exciting time for NHL fans and for Oiler fans.
Yeah, well, it's the first time ever the NHL, they handed out $1 billion worth of contracts on a single day. It was that big of a free agency. Part of that going to the cap going up for the first time in a number of years. It's been relatively a flat cap for a number of years there. But let's just start with the Oilers and continue from there. After thinking about this for a few days, the Edmonton Oilers are ultimately still above the cap. How do you think Jeff Jackson and the incoming GM, whoever that might be, is best to deal with this? Is this should they be looking to trade Cody Ceci as a trade of Evander Kane? Do you look at LTIring Evander Kane? How do you think that the Oilers should be going about getting under that cap? Gage, I'll start with you.
Oh boy. Well, we don't know precisely what the injuries are, right? With Evander Kane, we all assume that it's the athletic pubalgia with our residential expert on that injury, but I don't think that takes you into LTIR territory once the regular season starts. That should be all well and taken care of by at least the start of camp. I think, there's conversations I think that has to be had with Evander Kane about, all these, with these no movement clauses. Would he be willing to move somewhere else or submit a trade team list? I find it. I know everyone looks at Cody Ceci in a not the best of lights, but I think there is a serviceable, steady NHL defenseman there. It's amazing what you don't know what you have until it's gone. That's a big hole to fill if you move on from Ceci. I think the most likely one, the easiest one, the one that to me, I would be looking to first would be Ryan McLeod. I just think he's had ample time to show what type of player he is, and I just don't think that fits into the Oilers mold. So that's kind of in reverse. That's the order I would go with, one of these three guys to open up that $2.45 million of cap space.
Yeah, Ryan McLeod's the first one that jumps out as me as being the easiest to move. Now, he's younger, so you don't necessarily like that. He's still a developing player, still a growing player. Evander Kane, if you can move that contract, if you can get him to waive, then you do that. I don't think he's going on LTIR. I don't think there's anything there that's enough to put him on it, and I don't think he'd want to be on it. Now, if from a playing standpoint, he's unhappy with the time on ice and that sort of thing, or the potential of it, you might be able to actually move that, which is where I would go first. I don't, I get flack all the time. And granted, and I'm completely aware of my biases towards Cody Ceci being an old teammate and being a friend. So I always, I'm biased, completely biased, but I think when I just look at even a dollar value in terms of the minutes you get and the play you get for what you're paying Cody Ceci, I think I'm not chomping at the bit to move him out. I am not. Now, at some point with the defenseman you sign on the right side, you're going to have to move somebody. And, you're probably looking at Ceci or Kulak, one of those two, to move. But to me, if you're looking to get under the salary cap, which is where you have to go first, if you're moving Ceci, I want to be moving Ceci, or you want to be moving Kulak, you have to be moving those guys for a defenseman coming in that's going to play in your top four on that right side. And so to me, that's the secondary move. The primary move to get underneath the salary cap becomes one of the forwards, because that's what you brought in. That's where the money that you brought in was, and that's where the money you need to move out is, in my opinion, which then takes us back to the Kane or McLeod. Now, McLeod, again, probably easier to move that contract than the Evander Kane contract. But those are kind of the first two. If you can find a way to move Evander Kane's deal, that's where you're looking for. So
that's all
where
the
you
money.
Should be looking for. Yep, that's all the money.
That's everything you need. But yeah, and I guess. But when you look at long term, like I see where you guys are coming. Like Ryan McLeod, he's had his opportunities. What has it been? 4 playoffs he's had with the Edmonton Oilers, and it's just really shown up. Whereas Evander Kane is the guy that when you want it, you want him in the playoffs. When Evander Kane is healthy and producing, that's the type of player you want to have come playoff time. There are a lot of people though out there that think that Troy Stecher, they thought it this year, but they'll think it, I think, going into this season as well. He's going to outplay probably and be able to just replace Cody Ceci in the lineup. So. I'm guessing, Cass, you don't agree with that. Is there a chance you could see that Troy Stecher would be a better defenseman or a better option for this team next season instead of Cody Ceci in the top 4, or in just overall 6?
Yeah, again, I'm totally biased, so I'm going to say no. I don't see Stecher, and it was limited our amounts that we saw him. But if we look from a career standpoint, and I have to pull up the numbers, I don't have them in front of me. I don't think you're going to get. Yeah, I don't think so. So some of the difficulty with Cody Ceci and with some of the push towards him is his play and his play with Darnell Nurse. Now, I think Darnell Nurse can be a very difficult player to play with because he can be unpredictable. Now, when Darnell's at the top of his game, it's not as much. When he's playing aggressive, playing physical, playing simple, when he's doing things that Darnell does well, he's easier to play with. But there's these moments, and they happen often, of unpredictability. And then it falls on the other defenseman to try to cover or to try to read, and you're guessing in some instances. And so I think if we look at saying, okay, who do I trust more to play with Darnell Nurse? Do I trust Cody Ceci, or do I trust Stecher, who hasn't played with Darnell Nurse for a number of years? I lean towards Cody Ceci in that. Now, again, people are going to disagree, and that's fine. I don't think it's going to be the same.
Yeah, I agree with you, Cass. It's like I said, I just don't. You have to swap apples for apples with Cody Ceci going out, right? But is that available at that price point? I mean, I haven't done a deep dive into looking what that would look like to replace him, but no, I think you try to exhaust opportunities with Ryan McLeod and Evander Kane first.
Couple comments. Paris Jewelers inbox 780-218-9999. CC's a fine defenseman. No one looks good playing with Nurse. He's the guy you'd move if you could. The two reasons Darnell Nurse ain't moving. It is the difficult contract to move. Also, he was on the bachelor party with Connor McDavid. And I think people have to keep really close look at how tight he is with Connor and Leon, and especially with those contracts coming up. I don't think if you're Jeff Jackson, you're going to really want to try to take a shot at the friendships in that locker room between Connor, Leon, and Darnell. And on top of that, I think those players would also, it's not just the friendship thing. They believe that Darnell Nurse helps this team win. Whereas in the nasty chat, James saying Stetcher is a better puck mover than Ceci. This is why he was signed. Teams needs more quality first passes from the blue liners. While Smitty the Welder says Stetcher skates better and moves the puck better than Ceci, and more physical for his size. The one reason I would potentially look, though, at moving CC2 is, Gager, you said at the start, is that there's a player there. There's a serviceable player in the NHL, which leads me to believe that there's also a team then that would take him. And it wouldn't be, he doesn't have a no move. He doesn't have a no trade clause. That just shedding that money off your books, I feel like it's also rather easy to move. Like if you send out CC and McLeod, that right there probably gets you, I think, fully under the cap with room to sign Broberg and Holloway.
With CC?
If you move CC and McLeod.
Oh yeah. You're moving them both. That clears
because I don't think you could do only Evander Kane, I think, could be moved because they'll still do have the two RFAs. They still do have to sign Holloway and Broberg. So that's going to eat up a bit of money right now. They're at $2.5 million over the cap right now. So you need to probably get Gage between $4.5-5 million maybe in there. That's the amount of cap space you're going to need to get Holloway and Broberg potentially signed. So CC's 3.25, McLeod's 2.1, Evander Kane's 5.125. Evander Kane does it all. If not, you need to get a combination probably of both CC and McLeod, I would say.
And I'm not too familiar with Josh Brown, but from just what I've been reading, it's not an apples to apples with Cody Ceci with Josh Brown. But I haven't had the ISOCAM watching him play, but yeah. And then like reading about Evander Kane, everyone's talking about this LTIR. Sometimes if they talk about it so much, where there's smoke, there's fire. Is it an actual hip injury that will require the type of surgery that might drag on throughout the year? Maybe he does go on LTIR. That's a long time though. I'm not sure of the recovery of hip surgery.
It can't be a full season. It wouldn't be a full season.
It can't. Like
you'd have to. It maybe buys you some time if he was at the start of the year, but you're going to have to move that money at some point.
And maybe that's what you look at. Maybe he's not ready till Christmas if he does go have surgery. But that's procrastinating the inevitable, You
could do a Vegas Tampa thing where he just could sit out. Something just didn't go right. And he's available 81, 82. But I will say that this is something that Cass, though, you said, I don't think that's who Evander Kane is. I don't think, he could have had surgery, and they could have done that this past season. And
they should have.
Well, and he chose not. He was the one that didn't want the surgery. It doesn't seem like he's the type. I don't think he's that type of player you can go to and be like, we need you to sit out till game 81, 82, and then have you ready for the playoffs. Here's a guy that complained about ice time throughout this season at various points. Well, not complained, but made his comments about ice time. That I don't think he has that personality in him where it's I'll sit for an entire year for the team and be ready to go for the playoffs. The moment he's ready to go, he's going to want to play. So that's the one thing I could see that the Oilers, they're not going to be able to do the full Vegas Tampa LTIR. But if I'm Jeff Jackson, I'm trying. I'm trying with him, going, hey, just get that. If you have that surgery, just there's always some sort of setback at some point, and we'll have you ready to go for that last week of the regular season.
This was the first year through the Evander Kane experiment where we saw a few cracks in the dam, I think, with his attitude towards playing time. There was hints of it before, followed by usually a really big performance where he was arguably the best player in the lineup that night. I said it last time. I think that I think the compounding of an injury and not being able to get to the level where he was before, there possibly is a little bit of father time in there too. He's not a young player anymore. But for Evander Kane, the best thing for him, I mean, if I'm his agent or some part of his inner circle, I'm telling him, get better. You know, your main focus is getting better. So, and make the coaching staff's decision impossible to take you out of one of the spots in the top 6. That's all you can do as a player. That should be his singular focus if that's what's most important to him. Again, you know, looking at this, what JJ's done with this team, arguably you could have a first, a second, like a second and another second line. You know, the amount of ice time could be distributed quite evenly throughout those first 3 lines, and maybe that satisfies the quench of Evander Kane with ice time. Maybe he's not playing with Connor or Leon, but he's playing with other personnel in a role that's counted upon, not only defensively but offensively too. So, but to me, he's just got to get better. Don't give any excuses of you can't play with certain players to be effective. You have to put your game at a level that's
he might think that, though. That's the thing. Like, because if Evander, even as you said, you could get an important role on a good line, but if he views it as being on the third line and not getting the opportunity he wants, he could get frustrated. And a frustrated Evander Kane,
that doesn't go well.
No,
not for team. Not for team. And based on his history, when Evander Kane is frustrated, that doesn't go well for team chemistry and everything that's going on around the team.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, you can't have Evander Kane like holding you hostage because of his mood.
No. But that's why it's knowing, again, with the players they brought in, like with Arvidsson and Skinner, where you're just like, and Henrique, you're kind of like, where's the fit going to be? Where's the fit going to be? Now, if you could LTIR him till the playoffs and bring it in and have, like, sure, but I don't see that happening. And so it's a sticky one. It's a difficult situation to try to navigate because you got to, the no move is the big one for this year.
This is Two Guys and a Goalie presented by GS Construction here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, your clear choice for Edmonton sports. We will have a qualifying opportunity, last qualifying opportunity for the VIP table on July 14th to the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival with Bert Kreischer and Whitney Cummings. Alley-Cat, the official beer of the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival, taking place next weekend out at Kingsman Park. I don't know if you guys got to it on Tuesday with Dusty. So if you have, we could just move on. But did you guys get into the Stan Bowman story?
No.
Okay. Your guys' thoughts about the idea that the NHL allowing Stan Bowman, Joel Quenneville, and I forgot I can't remember the last name, being reinstated, being allowed to get a job again in the National Hockey League. Your guys' thoughts on the links of Stan Bowman to the Edmonton Oilers? Who wants to go first? Gager.
I don't. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't like it. Let's just say I don't like it. The way this team is right now, that's not the proper move. To bring something in that's going to take a lot of focus away from the actual team itself with a prior history, it's unacceptable to me. You just, it's not right. That decision's not right for where the Edmonton Oilers are. No, don't do it.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because it's a mishandling of a very, very serious, very bad, sexual assault situation. And an egregious mishandling of it. and you have to look at it and go, okay, from a future standpoint, if this were to be a situation that were to arise again, has he learned what should be done for the victims, for the organization, for stick with the victims in particular? If this were to happen again, what would he do? Has he learned his lesson? Has there been real remorse? Has there been real, I'll call it repentance, and a turning away and a growth from it? So I don't know. I feel like I have to chew on it a little bit more, because it's a tricky situation. As Gager said, you don't necessarily want the focus from an organizational standpoint to be, oh, you hired Stan Bowman and all the media attention that could go on around that. At the same time, he's a veteran GM with league experience that has shown some aptitude for it in the past. And you're like, okay, he wasn't, it's important to say he wasn't the perpetrator of this. Now, he was, we'll call it a participant in that it wasn't handled correctly at all. And so you're kind of weighing those things. So it's a sticky one for me. At the end of the day, if I'm in Jeff Jackson's position, I think Bowman gets an interview. But you're also going to look at other people and say, okay, well, if there's people where it's like, okay, I can get a similar caliber in terms of abilities and what I think they can do for the organization moving forward. Yeah, I'm going all over the place here, but I just it's sticky. It's
Yes.
difficult. I wouldn't, if they were to hire him, I wouldn't rush to judgment on the hiring, but I also wouldn't rush to judgment on the, if they chose not to and said, no, we can't touch this, we got to step away. Like I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry to be a fence sitter here, guys. I hate doing that, but I'm still chewing on it.
Sometimes things aren't just as simple as black and white in
not
one way.
No, it's not.
This goes deeper. I will say, like, there would be a big negative media attention around this hire in Edmonton. How it would go, the news stories, is the news conference would start with the questions about what happened in Chicago. It wouldn't be starting about going to Edmonton. And the news stories, they'll go be talking to various organizations around Edmonton that deal with victims of sexual assault and sexual abuse. And that's the attention that the Oilers would then have to bring on themselves. So I wonder if they kind of
those are fair questions.
100%. And they have to.
Questions if they do. Yeah. And it really, from an interview standpoint, those are questions that need to be asked before, if you were to interview and go through that hiring process of, well, what, of trying to discern what have you actually learned, what did you do wrong, and an admission of doing things wrong. Like, so there's a lot to it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like that's the question I would ask, Cass. What have you done to learn from this situation to make sure that this never happens again? Right. I think I remember, I look back to, Babcock in his interviews in Columbus saying, I've done a lot of work on myself. Well, what work is that? Is that fishing off the pier in Prince Albert off your lake? Like, what I'd want to know what kind of, whatever it is, courses, talking to people about these types of situations to make sure that if something like this arises again, then this isn't just your the hockey players. This is, as a general manager, you're responsible for a lot of other people aside from the players on the ice, from the front office staff to the media personnel. Like, you have to make sure that these things don't go on, and you're the rooster in the hen house. You got to make sure you can recognize that type of situation arising and making sure it never happens again. That's what I want to hear. You never hear of the work they've done. Players, unfortunately, if they have to check themselves into, the substance abuse programs, we know what the work they're putting in. Is this a guy just sitting at home, waiting out a few years till, I'll probably just, if I lay low for 2 years and then I'll start sending feelers out. I want to know what's been done. What have you done to make yourself a better person?
There's no easy transition away from this, but we'll now just transition away from this. Does it all surprise you guys that Jeff Jackson didn't have his GM hire figured out and known private,
Yes.
like that does.
Yep. I thought I thought they had it all lined up where it was going to be like, okay, get through draft day. You kind of got the guy sitting either in the back room or at the table that's going to be the next hire. And, right after draft day starts before free agency that you're going to drop the guy in. That's what I thought was going to happen. Clearly that's not the case, which is interesting to me. I mean, I know it's a long playoff run, but you had to anticipate in all likelihood that you were going to have a long playoff run. I mean, you were shooting for the Stanley Cup and you came within a goal or 2 goals of winning it. I am shocked that now maybe they put a lot of thought into it, but just more wasn't done to have this process just be a smooth process. I mean, it's just, it's surprising to me.
Yeah, it seems like. I'll go ahead, Gager.
No, go ahead, Matty.
Well, I just like it's. I like the idea that he wanted to interview people and he wants to go out and didn't just have his guy immediately known what he wants to do with. But then you look at, I guess they didn't want the distraction during the Stanley Cup run of the fact that Ken Holland won't be back and that they're.
And everyone knew that, so it wasn't a distraction.
But then all of a sudden you would have the stories out that the Edmonton Oilers have interviewed assistant GM X from this team. That's going to leak, or and. They didn't confirm anything about Ken Holland until after the Stanley Cup, and I wonder if that's
but we all knew it was.
There's a difference between us knowing but like until it's official, it's like the whole team wanted to just focus on the Cup run, all the way up to the top of the CEO. I wonder if that's just the way Jeff Jackson was going about this. That he had guys, he wants to interview them, but didn't want to create any extra distraction, any extra story that focuses beyond what was happening on the ice for the Edmonton Oilers, and that's why we got to this. But I'm also with you, Cass, where I'm surprised that there wasn't a announcement this week that this person is the new general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, because they kind of had it figured out all along.
Do you guys? I think I've said this before, but do you guys realize like it was probably a couple weeks in, after the firing and Knobloch came in, you didn't hear a lot from just rumors or guy trades, anything like the leaks were the taps were turned off for information coming out of the Oilers war rooms, I think. And I think this is part of it. You make a good point where, if Jeff Jackson's on a plane somewhere and he's seen or someone's coming into Edmonton, someone's snapping a picture of someone or seeing them out somewhere. I think it was just, what, I'm going to look after this at the end of the year. There was communications, but it sounds like he wants kind of more of that face-to-face type of meeting. And we're just not privy to the amount of information that we were accustomed to in prior seasons.
And there's a lot of, like, by all accounts, the news coming from the Oilers, they're shut down. Like, they're locked down. There's not a lot of leaking that's coming out of the Oilers over the last little bit here, too. I've really just, I don't know, Jeff Jackson's gone in and I don't know if he's found the moles or whatever you want to call them and is like gotten rid of them in some way. But there's not a lot of news that ever leaks or as much from the Edmonton Oilers as it used to. So
you have to remember too that with leaks, some of it can be strategic.
100%.
Right? Like there's a, hey, why don't you tell this person this, like, and get it out there. Even from a trades and trade rumor standpoint, I mean, it's like, tell Stoff to start talking about this because it'll get out there. And but you can do it strategically to try to apply pressure in certain ways. But there doesn't seem to have been as much of that. Whether it's just something he doesn't like doing or just hasn't done, I guess still remains to be seen from a time standpoint. But
you're not wrong with what you said there. Let's just look around in the National Hockey League a bit more. What's a team that you think didn't do enough over the course of the last few days in fixing their hockey team or changing their hockey team in any way, shape, or form? Gager?
Well, I think you got to look at the Leafs. Some of the signings are interesting. I mean, the Max Domi signing, I don't mind, but here's a team that's underperformed. All the rumblings of Mitch Marner. I thought something was going to happen with the Leafs, either on draft day or sometime within this, free agency, a shoe was going to drop. And looking at their roster, not a lot of huge changes. If I'm a Leafs fan, I'm probably pretty upset with what are some of the other moves that I've seen through other teams that are, Nashville. I don't think you could. I don't know if you say that they're in the right window, but they did make their team significantly better, and that's what I thought the Toronto Maple Leafs would get done, and they just didn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Carolina Hurricanes on this one. You lose two prominent blue liners, and yes, you bring in Sean Walker and Shane Gottespier. But I think you just lost a lot more than you gained in that. Your defense is worse. Now, they still have a very good defense. They're still very good. But I think if we're looking at teams that didn't improve at the free agency mark, I think the Carolina Hurricanes are number one for me. Winnipeg's short second behind them, but I'd have Carolina Hurricanes at the top of that list.
Yeah, Winnipeg striking out on a few players. One losing Sean Monahan to the Blue Jackets, and then I think they were in on Adam Henry, and they couldn't get that done. So we'll see what the Winnipeg Jets are. What did you guys make of the Vancouver Canucks? They lose a couple of guys to the Boston Bruins. They bring in Jake DeBrusk. They bring in Vinny Desharnais. Is this a team that you could see that's with what they've done and how they've addressed their team for next year, that they could still be right near the top of the Pacific Division, or is this a team that's maybe primed for a little bit of a step back next year? Cass?
I don't think they have as good of a season this year as they did last year. So, yeah, I'm going to say they're primed for a little bit of a step back. I think they'll still be a solid team, still going to be really good, probably a playoff team. But I don't think they're as dominant as they were this season.
Yeah, I agree with Cass. I think they caught a lot of teams off guard at the beginning of the season, just didn't realize the impact of the coaching change and their whole philosophy. They're a hardworking team, and they have there's some really good pieces in place there. They're definitely a playoff team. They're going to be very competitive games against the Edmonton Oilers. The biggest thing I have for the Vancouver Canucks is in goal, and I think you've realized over the past few seasons is Thatcher Demko cannot. He needs load management, and it's tough. It's very difficult because arguably on a nightly basis, he is the Canucks' best player, and it's difficult for coaches to take their best players out of the lineup. But you have to find a way where he is healthy going into the postseason because he's such a big integral part of that team.
You signed Shilov, though, so you're good.
Yeah, is he Gage? Do you think Shilovs is a guy that's shown that what we saw in the playoffs, that he could spell off Thatcher Demko for 30, 35 games a year?
You'd hope. It doesn't say he's signed yet.
I thought he signed.
Has he signed?
Did he sign?
I said
RFA.
Cap friendly still is RFA. We have cap friendly for I think one more day.
Oh shoot!
I thought he signed. I could be mistaken on that.
Yeah, you could be right.
Well, they did lose Casey DeSmith.
I'm going to pull it up and look here.
And
but yeah, they extended a qualifying offer to him a few days ago. That's one thing, but
maybe that's
so he's got.
Maybe I just saw the
he's got the qualifying offer, but I don't think he's signed anything or anything like that.
He's an RFA, so he's kind of locked in here. And Hughes, Myers.
How do you think Vinny Desharnais looks on that blue line out in Vancouver?
I wonder who he's playing with.
Yeah, some size. They got a significant amount of size on that back end now. They did before, I guess, too.
Myers doesn't. He's not overly physical, but it's a big body. He loves to pick on guys he knows that won't fight. So, and Quinn Hughes is. That's another thing. You got to find a way to protect Quinn Hughes a little bit. I don't know. Does Desharnais play with Quinn Hughes?
Stay at home, D. I was going to say Tyler Myers. I almost fought Tyler Myers when he was 15, playing his first couple games in Kelowna. Still,
really?
as a call-up. Yeah, when I was in Kamloops, he was playing in Kamloops. We were playing in Kamloops, and he's actually a Beaumont native, my old line mate. We called him the Rat, Kevin Heyman. He started like half of my fights, but he hit someone from behind in Kelowna's zone, and so mad scramble over there, and everyone kind of grabbing everybody. And I don't know if anyone actually fought, but I ended up, with Myers, and I grabbed him, and he, I gave him a shot, gloved shot to his face. And then stretched him out, and he pulled his arm back with his glove on like he was going to throw a punch at me. And I just looked at him and I said, "Think about what you're doing, kid." And then he just put his glove back on my shoulder. And that was it. He's an awesome guy. If you ever had interactions with him, he's a fantastic person. I know him a decent amount after that, but that's my quick Tyler Myers story.
This is two guys.
And sorry.
No.
I was just going to say Pettersson too. I mean, he was he had a very poopy diaper at the end of the year,
Well, he had a poopy playoffs.
Yeah, but some of the questions that were asked, they're going to need him to have another 100-point season at least and be one of those counted upon players, because he was milk carton material in the playoffs for sure.
This is two guys and a goalie. Matt Iwanyk, Matt Kassian, Joaquin Gage with you here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Let's qualify someone for the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival VIP table to Sunday, July 14th, Kingsman Park. It's going to be a beautiful forecast. Looking at for Sunday, 30 degrees by the time the show happens next Sunday, as we're now in this hot spell. As long as what Josh Clausen, CTV chief meteorologist, says, as long as smoke doesn't roll in, that will potentially impact the forecast. But it does look like it's whatever heat's coming, as long as that smoke doesn't come, we are going to be dealing with it. So it'll be a great way to spend a Sunday night next Sunday, not this one, July 14th. Brooke Kreischer, Whitney Cummings, our last qualifying opportunity before we announce the winner tomorrow morning on The Morning Show with Lieutenant Eric, Joaquin Gage, and YouTube. Trev, to get into the draw for this qualifying opportunity, just text us 6 o'clock or longer to 780-218-9999. 780-218-9999 as Alley Cat, the official beer sponsor of the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival here in Edmonton. Get your tickets, greatoutdoorscomedyfestival.com. So once again, 6 o'clock or longer to 780-218-9999, and you'll go into a draw to be our last qualifier for that VIP table for 4 next Sunday, which we'll announce tomorrow morning on The Morning Show. Cass, you ready for the golf tournament next week? It's going to be hot too that day.
Yeah, it's going to be spicy. I'm getting there. Yep, I'll be ready.
Have you been golfing at all? Have you gone on the links?
A little bit, not very much. It's hard when you're dating 4 women, guys. It's hard to find time to golf. So, I very little bit. So I'll be rusty, but our team will win in fun. So we're good.
Gager, have you been golfing at all?
Nope, not at all. I saved that first swing for the tee box, buddy.
Oh, no, you're not even gonna hit the driving range. Just gonna go straight to the tee box and swing.
Maybe a few deep lunges, but that's about it.
First annual EST Classic, completely sold out. No spots available. That gets going next Tuesday. So a reminder to everyone that isn't in on the EST Classic next Tuesday. We'll have the morning show from 6 a.m. till 6 a.m. till 8 a.m. And then we won't have any live current content the rest of the day on Tuesday, as everyone is golfing except me, but I'll be running the thing, so we have no live content that day. So we'll have the 2 hours of the morning show. Maybe I'll just loop the morning show the rest of the rest of the morning and the day on our audio stream. And also, I was thinking about the idea of how they did like the Fireplace TV channels or all that. I might just put up a camera of the ranch and have a live look-in of the ESD Classic on our YouTube channel to stream from 8 o'clock until
I like that. It's a good idea.
I might do that. No audio, no sound. Yeah. It's just you're going to see the Ranch Golf and Country Club as the first annual EST Golf Classic gets going. Let's get into Big Mama's and Papa's Pizzeria. Bigger and hotter headlines. BMPP, a real pizzeria restaurant, not just a delivery pizza chain serving authentic Italian cuisine with their made-in-house pizza dough, traditional tomato sauce, and fresh toppings. Each pizza is cooked to perfection, a pizza experience you've been waiting for. Visit them 128th Ave and 97th Street. Order today, bmpp.ca, or you can call 587-746-0550. Max Verstappen says Norris's friendship saving it is a priority after the crash. I haven't talked with you, Cass. What did you make of what happened at the Austrian Grand Prix this past weekend, and how do you feel about where Max is going into this Silverstone and stuff here? We're gonna see a little bit of fighting here, but there are more people maybe going to challenge Max a little bit more and not allow him to be the bully.
I hope so. My brother and sister-in-law are both super into F1, and I was hanging out with them that day, so they were all chatty about it. And I just care that I just recovered first place because I dropped down a little bit. So back into first place in the F1 Fantasy League, which is nice to see. So recovered that position, which is great.
You?
And Gager had jumped past me. He had a couple really good weeks in a row. And so I re-recovered, but I haven't burned any chips. So I'm still waiting on the opportune moments here. Probably won't burn any here for Silverstone, but yeah, I mean, I love the fighting. I love when it's a little aggressive. Now, I don't want to see dangerous things happen and people get hurt and bad crashes and that, but to have people being bullies and to challenge Verstappen with that, I mean, it makes it more interesting, makes it more fun, makes it more exciting to watch. So I'm all about it.
I got to do some work here. Well, one of my teams is 10th. I'm done. I'll give up on that one. But I'm 4th. Gager passed me. I've been just so busy with some other things I haven't got there. Although Hernan,
he had a couple of really good weeks.
Your second team of Hernan Salas's Gager's dropping too a little bit here. You're not doing enough of a job helping Hernan.
Well, he's in the he's got a lot to work on with work. His F1 team is probably he was into it for a while, but he's not contacting me for advice and stuff lately. So, and I'm kind of glad because his teams were always doing better than mine after I gave him some, you should probably try this. And so screw you, Hernan, you're on your own.
What chips did you use, Gager? Because you're right there.
None.
You haven't used the chip?
No, I did move some. I had to take some penalties for extra moves, but I've put in the work. When you put in the work, Matty, it all pays off in the end.
Well, right now, Cass, you only have a 6-point lead from first.
Yeah, it's small.
From first.
Like I said, it just recovers. No, Gager had a couple of really, really good weeks, and I got hit. There was a few. Which race was that? Where it was just a bad race. And it was a bad race for most people, but Gager did really well. And he jumped like 100 points. And so I had thought about making some moves at one point a couple races ago, and I didn't, and I should have. And that was with Red Bull and with thinking, okay, they could take a little bit of a step back here. And I had looked at adjusting, and I was like, no, I'm just going to stay the course one more time. And it hampered me. It hit me. It hurt me. But bigger, hotter headline for Big Mama's Big Papa's Pizza is I have recovered that first place position, even if it is only with a few points. I'm there.
We're only halfway through this. I thought this was going to be a runaway league at one point. With how you had such a lead, but
I thought so too. But Gager just had a couple fantastic weeks. He does the work. I'll say he does the work.
I'm still just over 100 points away. I'm not too far away from
you're
getting
in the
into
mix.
the ball. I got to actually put some focus on this team a little bit right now. The Oilers playoff run in soccer has distracted me a little too much.
It gets way more difficult now. Now that you have multiple teams with possibilities, and is Max going to torpedo Lando and take them both out again? You got to think about these things. It's going to be a good weekend. I mean, back to the original format, free print, not a sprint weekend. So, and Silverstone always usually has some pretty dramatic moments. So this will be good.
Who's best going into this? You think which car is best designed for this track?
General Bottas is driving.
I think it's got to be. It's most likely Red Bull and McLaren, just because the high speed corners in this race too, right? So look for them, but who knows? I don't know. There's usually some upgrades, still some more upgrades that come to this race. And Mercedes, it's kind of unofficially their home race to British drivers, so they obviously want to have a good performance here. I mean, they won the last one.
Well, and McLaren, with Lando being part of that team, That's
Another
and now
UK
with
guy.
him with that fight and stuff, like being there with Max, like I'll probably guess there'll be a lot of McLaren fans going at Silverstone this weekend.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
For sure.
the Brits will have this to cheer for once their soccer team gets knocked out by Switzerland this weekend. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the Euros at all, but they were a minute away from being knocked out of the tournament and their manager getting fired. And they scored a late equalizer.
I saw that.
And then won in the and it's salvaged it, beating, was it Slovakia or Slovenia? I can't remember which one they were playing. And now they get Switzerland, which will be a little difficult. If you head to CoolBet, which is the exclusive betting partner of Edmonton Sports Talk, this wasn't my idea. This was all Huss's idea because at the start of the tournament, my Final Four was going to be England, France, Spain, and Netherlands, and that's destined to be a potential right now with where all the matches are. So Huss created the Iwanyk Big Brain Special, which is Spain, France, England, and Netherlands all to win in this round of 8, and that's plus 650. So head to coolbet.com, click on exclusives, and right there is the plus 650. This news also coming down today. Back to hockey when it comes to Big Mamas and Papas Pizzeria, bigger and hotter headlines. Dave Cameron will coach Team Canada once again at the World Juniors for the 3rd time in his career. Amongst the coaching staff is goalie coach Justin Pogge, and I remember when he was a goalie in this event and just absolutely dominated. It was great, and now he's a goalie, so I feel very old today. Do you guys do either of you know Dave Cameron at all?
Yep. He was my assistant coach in Ottawa when I played there. So he's I have a lot of respect for Dave. I really like it. I think from a communication standpoint, he communicates well with young players. He's a good guy for the job. Yep, really good guy for the job. Pogge's, I don't know how he is as a coach, just as a player and playing against him and chatting with him a whole bunch of times. But I was happy to see that. I mean, it's, hey, our generation's time. Our generation's time to start stepping in. So I love it.
Do you like the idea, Gage, of going to a coach for a 3rd time? Like, it's been years since, because he would have been in that Buffalo era, I think. So that was like 12, 13 or something like that, maybe when he was coaching the World Juniors. Do you like the idea of having a guy that comes back onto the bench here with that experience from the past?
Yeah, especially when they've had success, right? It says he's been coaching in Austria. But no, I like it. I just remember just his interviews with the World Junior team, very composed, having the pedigree of winning the gold medal before. I think can help, especially in those scenarios where, young kids. World Juniors are so much fun to watch because of the swings in games, the emotions to run so high with these young players. Having someone that's been there before, I think when you have your bench boss that's a little bit more calm and cool and collective, that's going to only help Team Canada.
Also, this news from yesterday, Vladimir Tarasenko, 2-year, $9.5 million contract with the Detroit Red Wings. Do you like that fit for the Red Wings, that with Stevie Y bringing in Tarasenko to that team?
Yeah, why not? It's just, I think the Red Wings are just on the cusp. Like they just they limped at the end there. They should have made the playoffs. There's definitely value having more players that have won Stanley Cups in your room. I think they've always had a good kind of culture with Detroit. I don't mind at all.
Cass, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think Gager, you hit the nail on the head when you said they're on the cusp, and I think they think that as well, and so they're viewing a Tarasenko ad here as being one of the last pieces to take them into that playoff territory. They have some great young players, some players on the up and up, and it's a veteran presence, a guy that can score, has had playoff experience before. So you're saying, okay, what gets us into the mix here, and is he a player that does that? It wasn't a cheap ad at that dollar amount, but it's not like he signed for like 8 years. So, you get a veteran guy for a couple of years, hopefully can get his best years that are left out of him. So yeah, I don't mind it at all for the Detroit Red Wings. So it's I think helps them makes them a little bit better. And, if we're looking at them from a forward group standpoint, that's one of the areas where they could have used a little bit more help. Still was on some of that high-end, top-end scoring. And this brings them a piece that can really help with that.
Well, and for them, like
they're
I was just going to quickly say, just for their maybe bringing him on a little bit of a higher price. The thing about him though, or that team, is they have like 20 million cap space. Like they're a team, and that's sometimes the benefit of having cap space is you could then just go throw that extra miller or two here, but they still have so much cap space available to them that even just, who knows what they could do trade wise, even come up closer to the deadline or things like that. They could take on contracts, get assets, or find a way to get that player. But what were you going to say there, Gager?
They're also, I know Jack Campbell said, but they're deep with NHL experienced goaltenders like Ville Husso, Cam Talbot, Alex Lyon, Jack Campbell. There's usually some sort of injury there or something that they could, I don't know, there are possibilities of a trade or, getting more picks back. And that 20 mil, it's funny that nothing was really done with free agent signings, or maybe there's just a little bit too much that Stevie Y wanted to pay for certain players, but they've definitely, is it Stoff that says kept their powder dry?
Low Tide
going into the rest of the summer.
Low Tide loves that one.
Low Tide says that.
Yeah.
You know what I think it is, Gager, is, as we said, they're on the cusp. They're viewing this as, this isn't our year to win it.
Right.
Internally, right? They're looking at saying, okay, we don't need to, blow the whole cap space. We get another year of development here with our young guys. If we can get some playoff experience, who knows what happens anytime you make the playoffs, you never know. So we give ourselves a chance to get to the playoffs, to hopefully do some damage in the playoffs. But then as we gain another year of experience, we still have so much of this cap space available where, if I'm, Steve Yzerman, and I'm thinking, okay, window to win and timing to win. If that's not this year, next year, all of a sudden we have, and I haven't looked at when their contracts expire, but we have enough to sign guys like Sider. I don't know when his deal's up. We'll have to take a peek at that.
He's an RFA right now, so they do need to sign him.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
But they have $20 million.
Right, but that's going to be a significant one because you're going to want to lock him up for the long term. He's an absolute stud, and it's going to be cheaper now. Like, you're not going to bridge deal this guy, right? Like, you want to get him for 8 years. It's going to end up being cheaper for you to do it 8 years, and you have the cap space now to do it. So it's like, okay, you think of locking him up, getting him done, and then beyond that, heading into not the 24-25 season, but the 25-26 season, where it's like, okay, this is really when we want to make the push. Now you have cap space available. You're not like, we're going to have to move good pieces out to bring good pieces in. It's no, we have cap space, and now we can offload draft picks. We can do what we need to do, not worry about paying more for teams to retain salary on guys and trade, not worrying about having to move people out if we're bringing people in free agency. So it gives you all kinds of flexibility for a good young team that's in that building process.
And I'm looking at Tarasenko. He's got no trade clause starting July 1st. Player submits 18
next year
trade list 20 next year 20. So I don't know. I mean, those are even him and Patrick Kane. If they're on the outside looking in come trade deadline, maybe you talk to these guys about removing it. Possibilities of restocking and moving forward, like you said, Cass, with and freeing up even more cap space. The Detroit Red Wings are in a really good position with where they're at, but they have to make the right decisions now. They could be really competitive within the next couple of years, I think.
Boys, enjoy Silverstone this weekend. And then I will see the two of you on Tuesday at the Ranch Golf and Country Club. Registration and the breakfast starts at 7. You guys are teeing it off at 8 o'clock. So excited to have you guys out there.
Can't wait, buddy.
Mm-hmm. It'll be fun.
On behalf of Cass and Gage, I'm Iwanyk. Thanks for tuning in to Two Guys and a Goalie, presented by GS Construction here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Up next, it is a Nielsen Show replay, and then we're back with live programming tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. as Joaquin Gage, Lieutenant Eric, and YouTube Trev. They will have the Nielsen Show, so have another day full of content to wrap up this week. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll chat with you tomorrow.